So as some of you may know, anime outside of Japan isn't really all that popular. It's not the big commodity that it is in Japan. Series such as One Piece, that is absolutely humongous and inescapable in Japan, just really aren't even known, for that matter, on a mainstream audience in America, North America, and other parts of the world. And that's where this video comes into play. I wanted to talk about whether or not anime will be popular again or mainstream again outside of Japan. Now, one of the things about anime as a whole, the anime industry in general, is a lot of people continue to hold out waiting for that next Dragon Ball Z. If some of you don't know, one of the biggest booms in the anime industry was the late 90s, early 2000s, when series such as Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, Sailor Moon, Card Captors, all these series blew up into the mainstream media and, created this epidemic, so to speak, this crazy craze known as anime and manga, and people just went crazy, wanting to know more about it, and it became something amongst the mainstream. You ask anybody today, they will probably at the very least know of at least Dragon Ball Z or Pokemon. Now, nowadays, for the most part, nobody really knows. Like, they'll know Dragon Ball Z, of course, but they don't really know about anime, and as a whole, anime just isn't really all that popular outside of Japan. And I wanted really to just say that, like, as far as anime outside of Japan becoming popular and mainstream, and a long-term goal, I could see possibly on a long-term scale it becoming a popular thing and going mainstream. But as of right now, I definitely don't see it becoming mainstream. And here's a couple of reasons why. Mainly is the fact that the way anime was propelled into the mainstream was through Cartoon Network back in the day. Now, Cartoon Network is totally different than what it was back in the day. Same thing with CW, the 4Kids block. Well, it's not 4Kids anymore, but the Saturday morning block. It just really, both of those blocks aren't the same anymore. Pretty much Cartoon Network now has steered away almost completely from anime. I'm not talking about Adult Swim and Toonami. I'm talking about Cartoon Network, that, 4 in the afternoon time slot, where a lot of, people would come home, turn on TV, and see Dragon Ball Z, they'd see Gundam Wing, they would see a lot of these, awesome anime on TV and get exposed to this. Nowadays, none of that really is available anymore. In order to see anime, the only pretty much big time at this point is Toonami on Saturday at midnight, which a lot of people, especially the mainstream audience just isn't around for that time. And that's one of the big problems, is that anime doesn't have something to drive it to the mainstream audience. The internet can only go so far, and the internet just isn't as strong as it being on TV for, the 10 and 12-year-olds to turn on TV and see, oh, Dragon Ball Z is on, or see Naruto's on, or Bleach is on. And that's one of the things that really helped to propel anime to begin with, was that, being on at prime time, 4 to 8, around that time, that's where a lot of people would come home and see these series, these anime on TV and get exposed to it. Without that, anime just really can't go too far because it doesn't have that. There's really no reason why a series like, the new generation of anime manga like Magi or Fairy Tail can't, become mainstream and very popular in America. Fairy Tail, it's very simplistic. Pretty much anybody can get into it from the beginning. It's very simple, but it's also, enjoyable. And for something like that, in order for it to get to a mainstream audience and get to that level where everybody knows of Fairy Tail, it would have to come on at a time reasonable. It would have to be on TV, and it would have to be broadcast nationwide. And anime just doesn't have that anymore. Anime is very rare and scarce on TV in North America in general. Again, there's the exceptions at, Toonami, and they also have like old Yu-Gi-Oh! On the CW block on Saturday mornings. But aside from that, there's really no anime. Back in the day, they had a Sci-Fi they would play Gurren Lagann. They had Cartoon Network, the Toonami block at 4 in the afternoon, a lot more, or 6 in the afternoon, a lot more reasonable than what it is now. And that's pretty much the biggest problem, is that lack of promotion. Again, the internet, while it is a good tool, it really can only go so far, because in order for anime to reach these audiences that aren't looking for it, it has to be thrown at them. On the internet, you have to search for what you're looking for. If nobody is searching for these anime, then they're not going to obviously obtain it. And with TV, if somebody is putting on Cartoon Network to see what's on, and they see this awesome action series, or this awesome series in general, then they're going to get more into it and keep on following. And that's pretty much where I see, as far as anime as a whole, where it needs pretty much this, I guess, propelling for it to become mainstream, and where at the moment I don't see it at all getting to that particular point because it doesn't have those tools that is necessary to get it to the mainstream. You know, back in the day when you would turn on TV, you could see anime a lot more and be exposed to it. Even if you didn't know what it was, you just knew it was, you know, these awesome series. Now we don't have that. And again, that's really due to television. The big part, a lot of people say, oh, anime doesn't need to be on television, etc. But if it is to ever become mainstream again and have that series where it's like a household name like Pokemon and Dragon Ball Z, it needs to be broadcast on TV. And in order for that to happen, there needs to be a network that is on the rise that wants to use stuff like anime on its broadcasting network. Because back in the days, the reason why anime, if some of you don't know, was able to get onto Cartoon Network was because they were trying to branch off. They were trying to do different things. They had a lot of old cartoons and they were looking for what can we do to spice things up. And they were like, well, we don't really have much in-house. Let's look to Japan, see what they got over there, and let's start something up. They already are established now. They have the Adventure Times. They have these really, you know, these in-house shows, so they don't really need to outsource anymore. We need another network or something to come along and say, we want to broadcast anime. And that's where it would take. In a long term, I could possibly see anime, you know, coming to the forefront when things become a little bit more accepted as far as animated programming not being quote-unquote for kids, because, you know, a lot of in the mainstream eyes, anime, it's simply cartoons, and cartoons simply for kids is what they think. So I guess it's just what time it would have to take. But in a short term, anywhere from the next, you know, year to 5 years, I definitely do not see it becoming mainstream, possibly even the next 10 years, because simply it doesn't have that driving force to bring it there. Series such as Attack on Titan, you know, all these great series that are coming out now that are amazing, if they were put in front of an American audience or a North American audience or worldwide in general on a regular basis, I guarantee you that anime would become a lot more successful than it ultimately is. Let me know what you guys think. First of all, do you think that anime will ever become mainstream and popular again like it was in the late 90s and early 2000s where you got the Dragon Ball Zs? You even had Naruto at one point where people were saying that's the next Dragon Ball Z until they took it off Cartoon Network. So do you think it'll ever become mainstream? And also, if so, what will it take to make anime mainstream? We already have quality. We have the good shows that come out constantly throughout the seasons. But how will it get to a mainstream level where it's like very successful? Let me know in the comment section below or with a video response, because this is something I've talked about with several friends. And I really would love for one day anime to get back to that level where it is. You know, the industry is waiting for that Dragon Ball Z. And I don't think it needs necessarily that Dragon Ball Z. It needs that timing and that network that is going to help bring it to television. Because as much as people say television is dead, it is still the greatest promotion that you can get for anime in general. That's all I have for this video. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Thumbs up for one day anime getting back to where it belongs, at least having, you know, a few of those shows like Dragon Ball Z that is competing with The Simpsons for ratings. Back in the day, Dragon Ball Z, yes, it competed and defeated The Simpsons in ratings a couple different times, which is freaking amazing. I'm Finette World, and as always, people, have an awesome day, and thumbs up for anime because it's freaking awesome.